name is Clayton Shackelford. This is my grandma, Bernie Shackelford. We call her Granny. What did you do for fun when you were a child?
Well, we didn't have too many toys, so most of the time we played outside and we played ball, and then we played jack. We played a lot of jack, and then we played hopscotch, and we would just most of the time play outside, and then when it got cold, well, we'd play inside, and we had an old phonograph. There was no radios then, and we'd play records, and each Christmas I'd get one doll, and that's what we played with.
Okay. What were your clothes like?
Well, they were very simple because my mother made all my clothes, and we didn't have very many. We were poor, and we had to watch what we spent, and my mother made my clothes.
What was my daddy like when he was 8 or 9 years old?
Well, you look a lot like your daddy did when he was that age, only I believe his hair was blonder than yours. And he liked to wear his daddy's boots, but he always managed to wear them on the wrong foot. And he had some cat pistols, and we have some pictures of him clomping around in his boots on the wrong feet, and these cat pistols hanging down to his side. And he liked to play outside. He liked to play ball, and I think he was a pretty good little old boy. He was pretty stubborn, but he was a nice boy.
What kind of pets did you have when you were young?
I can't ever remember having a pet. When I was young, my daddy worked for a oil company, and we were transferred nearly every year, so we didn't get to have any pets because we couldn't take them with us.
What did your home look like when you were young?
Well, they were very simple. We had wooden floors, and we had a kerosene stove, and we just had one stove in the house that we heated by, so it was very cold, and that was nearly always in the living room, and it was very cold, and so we had to lock the cover on the bed at night when it was cold, and then in the summers we'd open up the windows to get the air in because we didn't have any fans, and we had linoleum on all our floors. We didn't have carpet like we do now. And when the weather was hot and we would want to take a nap, we'd lie down on the linoleum because it was cool. And then the breeze would come in through the window. So we had a very simple little house.
How was the cost of things different from today?
Well, we didn't do a lot of buying except when we'd buy like shortening and sugar and things like that. And I don't remember being a child just how much they cost, but I can remember that things were very, very cheap. Even when I was in high school, my mother and I would go to the grocery stores on the weekend, and she would have a large sack of groceries in one arm and one in the other, and I would too, and we could get all that for around $5 or $6, so that was cheap. But even when your granddaddy and I lived in California, I kept a little book, and when I would go to the store, well, eggs were about 15 cents a dozen, and milk was about 10 cents, and bread was about 5 cents. So even after I married, things were a lot cheaper than they are now.
When did you get your first TV? What did you think?
Well, I thought that first TV was pretty special, and I believe it must have been in the early 50s when we got our first TV. It was a small one, but we enjoyed it a lot because we didn't get to go to the show in that very much, so it was nice to have the pictures at home, and they were all in black and white.
Can you tell a funny story about something that happened when you were young?
Well, I can't think of anything just real funny, but when I was young, I used to help my mother with the washing all the time. And we had these long clotheslines out in the backyard, and she had a big iron pot out in the middle of the yard, and she boiled all our sheets and all our pillowcases and all our towels and things, and everything those days were white. They hadn't gotten out with the colored things yet. And she would dip all those clothes up, and then we would carry them in a tub up to the back in the little wash house that we had, and she would rub on the rubbing board, and my job was to help rinse. So we rinsed them, and then we had blue in the last tub so that they would be white. Then we hung out all those sheets and things. Then when they got dry, we had to get all the dried clothes in, and then we had to fold them up. And I just wasn't really very fond of wash day. Another thing that was interesting, my mother, and I guess everybody did then, they made their own bread. And oh, it smelled so good. And when she would get through making the bread, she would call my brother and I in, and she'd cut some while it was warm, and we'd put butter on it and sugar, and that was so good. We really loved to have her make bread because she always let us have some when it was warm.